public session. Stand for the pledge of allegiance. Ben, would you lead us?
For pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion for the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes indefinitely. For the reason it may adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of this board. Yeah, I believe so.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Motion by Sean, second by Scott to seal non-public minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 4-0-0. Meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th, both public and non-public.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Sean, second by Scott. Any discussion, corrections, changes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 4-0-0. John, you want to get the consent agenda?
Yep. I move that we approve the consent agenda for April 3rd, 2025 that contains item number 1, accounts payable payment manifest dated 3/26/25. Number 2 is accounts payable payment manifest dated 4/1/25. 3 is Harper's payroll ACH payment manifest 2/11/25. 4 is Harper's payroll ACH payment manifest 2/25/25. 5 is Harper's payroll ACH payment manifest dated 3/11/25. 6 is Harper's payroll ACH payment manifest dated 3/25/25. 7 is payroll summary manifest dated 3/27/25. 8 is the administrative abatement for map lot number 220-015-125 in the amount of $200.32. 9 is certificate of yield taxes and timber tax warrant for intent number 24-059-02-T and map lot number 219-033 in the amount of $421.94. 10 is certificate of yield taxes and timber tax warrant for intent number 24-59-03-T and map lot number 219-044 in the amount of $690.04. 11 is 2025 Q2 water warrant in the amount of $148,213.01. 12 is 2025 Q2 sewer warrant in the amount of $171,662.32. And number 13, 2025 MS-232 report of appropriations actually voted in the amount of $10,544,489.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All right. Motion by John, second by Sean. Any discussion on the items?
I just will tell you, I took number 14 off. There was an issue, and we're bringing it back to the next slide. I originally sent it out with a number 14. So I took it off, and we're bringing it back to your April 17th meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Just for the record, items 9 and 10, the yield taxes. I historically had a contract when I was not selectman, so just full disclosure, I have historically had a contract when I have not been selectman to provide that information to the assessing office for their use. I do not do that. I do not have a contract.
Okay.
When I'm selectman, I still help them out.
Okay. Anything else?
No, so you're saying you help them, but you're not getting paid?
Exactly. Well, I am. I'm getting my stipend.
Yeah, you get.
Okay.
Just in case there's any questions, because historically I have been paid to do that.
Okay,
All right.
all good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 4-0-0. All right. Fire department update, Ben.
Well,
Wow.
actually, the first thing on the list is the site visit, if you just want to touch base
Yeah.
and confirm the date with them.
Sure. When are you coming? Next
So-
week?
When you
2
want
weeks
us.
from now?
April 17th, we said that was what you were looking at. I just want to confirm, do you want to plan the site visit at 4?
Yeah. Should we just have a meeting there?
A meeting at,
Well,
over
you'd
the-
have to.
Oh, yeah.
We don't.
Their AV equipment is installed, which is,
We're not 100% familiar with it.
yes, we don't have access to it yet.
Not 3.5% familiar with it.
I was gonna, hold on, like, we're actually familiar with it, it's the same junk that's here.
They have something different. They have it slightly different, so.
Okay,
but-
sorry, to get off.
Slightly different junk.
So, yeah, so the 17th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll advertise it as a work session.
Yep.
So, and then we'll just follow up with, make sure that you can get into both sides.
Yes.
So 17.
At 4 o'clock.
I was gonna say, Ben.
Look forward to having you. So we do have the new A3 arrived a month ago, I guess. The radio install scheduled for Monday. It should be complete that day. The state was in doing the 2 current ambulances anyway. She did look at A3 and basically we just need to send some video of the radios working. So that will be ready to go. Hopefully next week it'll be in service. It's, you'll get to see it in a couple weeks. It's basically A2 on the gas motor. There's a few little tweaks we made, but looking back at 2022 or whatever, 21 when we ordered it, it was we need to get an order in, so let's take the spec that we kind of really hashed out pretty well, send it back to the manufacturer, get a new price. And then just as a reminder, at around the same time or just after that, we discussed keeping A1 so that we had the ability to respond to third ambulance if we needed to. It satisfies our kind of increase in detail requests with an ambulance. And just as far as, downtime issues, right? So a month or 2 ago, A2 had to go out for down to Liquid Springs for work. It should have been back in 2 days, and it was back in 8 days or so. And that's a lot of second calls that you're relying on New Hampton, and then sending New Hampton or Bridgewater that billing revenue. So that'll be good for that. And then kind of the last tidbit there is it starts to open the door at least more to the conversation of remounting. Even though remounts are starting to take an excessive amount of time, you really can't remount when you need 2 ambulances and you only have 2 ambulances, and have that ambulance missing for 4 months to 3 years, depending on who you ask on a remount. So,
What's a remount?
Changing the chassis.
yeah, changing the chassis. So you basically, right, the box is all aluminum, and yeah, it might
So
be a
it's
little
still good.
dinged up and whatnot. It's going to get probably some paint work and new lights put in it, but that's a large part of that $300,000 that ambulance cost is that box. So in,
Okay.
10 or 15 years, you throw a new chassis on it, and you get another 10 or 15 years out of it.
Was that never an option prior with the other models?
Most of it was the different chassis styles. So now A1 still has a van chassis. It's an argument in-house, but I'd be perfectly fine putting another van chassis underneath of that box at 60 maybe-ish%, maybe it's more, maybe it's less of the cost of a new ambulance, so.
Under number 4C, the next item is EMS legislation. Do you have your memo back?
I do.
Okay.
I think, I don't remember. Yeah, so I had sent something a few months back when
Last year, Senate Bill 407, I just, certainly want to get this kind of in a public meeting that people should be paying attention to this because it's going to have a potential very big impact on revenues and then ultimately potentially taxes. So the Senate Bill 407 from last year ended up turning into let's have a committee and do some consulting work, which was kind of good at the time. There's a whole history and
Study committee is where bills go to quietly die.
yeah, unfortunately, and I will try to keep some of my bias out of it, but ultimately it went to committee, but we were in New Hampshire, right? So if you look at any RSA, it's going to have a fiscal impact number.
Yeah.
There was no fiscal impact number. So ultimately, the insurance providers paid for a consultant to come do a study for the state of New Hampshire.
Right.
Whether that influenced the outcome or not is to be determined, but it wasn't great. One of the factors that they put in there that would defray the amount of billing is the amount of taxes that you collect. Okay, I guess that doesn't really work totally, but so it's a great read if you are really bored. So effectively, what came out was in effect, and it's not perfectly 200%, but the number is consistent all the way down the board. If you take the Medicare reimbursement rate for our area, the rural area, and you evaluate it against the rates they recommended, it was 197%. Like they just clicked and dragged and submitted that as the report. My opinion, but backed up by data. So that is both House Bill 316 and Senate Bill 245 have very similar language around ending balance billing. There's some weird thoughts that I have in my head about that, but ending balance billing, basically direct pay. There was a law passed a number of years ago that said New Hampshire-based health insurance companies that are providing a payment for an ambulance service are required to send that check directly to the provider. There's not a whole lot of New Hampshire-based health insurance companies that are sending us checks. So it's still allowable when it ends up being Anthem out of Ohio or wherever, that they can direct pay the patient that $1,500 or whatever it might be. That's the health insurance's responsibility. It's a little bit less. We've come up with a better system of being able to track those down. It's still not 100% capture, but we're getting, we were previously maybe getting something in the 20%, and we're up and above 80% of collecting those. Unfortunately, what happens and why there will always be some of those missing is that you're gonna go, I wasn't expecting anything from Anthem, right? And it gets in the trash, and it's a $1,800 check, and whether or not you want to chase it down, or now Anthem's not, it's been 90 days and they're not going to reissue it, whatever. So that all of that's kind of the same amongst the two bills. The big difference is 316 establishes a state rate that's based on the consultant's output from the 407 study. So effectively, easiest to look at it as 200% of the current Medicare rates. 245 sets that number at 325%. 325% was the number that was going forward last year, and then the insurance lobby kicked in and poo-pooed it and said everybody's going to get rich, and that's why they want these numbers, when the data supported that any ambulance service, fire-based, private, doesn't matter, is going to lose money at that rate. It'll be less revenue. So it establishes a state rate. That's also out of the whatever it is now, 17 or so states that have established state rates. It's the most common factor used is 325% of Medicare, and you move forward and you're happy with that, and you start to evaluate your revenue based on that number. So both bills have passed, which is, I guess, a neat situation. I don't know how that works exactly, right? So now Senate Bill 245 passed, is in the House, and House Bill 316 passed, is in the Senate. So there's a lot going on with it. I can certainly try to answer any questions. This is my kind of first look around the end of last year at where we were at, or where we were roughly at for, you know, billing revenue last year, where we can project to be at next year, and apply that within all of the matrix, which is, it's not as simple as saying you're going to lose X%, right? Because different payer mixes and actual collections based on payer mixes and so on and so forth, put all that into the jar, and the output is that roughly we can project, you know, $115,000 in lost revenue if House Bill 316 passes, and maybe about $75,000 if Senate Bill 245 passes. So while the Ambulance Association and ambulance providers and the Fire Chiefs Association have moved to the side of supporting Senate Bill 245, I will be it's very much a lesser of two evils. Let's support this because it's coming one way or the other. Let's make sure it's at least not as impactful as it could be. So it's still an impact, and I think that's the important thing, and I hope the important thing that the legislature starts to understand is that all the other language in it is very good. It's very good not only for ambulance services and fire departments and municipalities, but it's very good for the end user, right? So that it ends balance billing. You don't have any of this big surprise. If your insurance says you have a $500 copayment or a $1,000 copayment on an ambulance ride, that's your bill. The insurance company is now obligated to reimburse at this rate. Yes, it's a little less, but at this rate, and there's no other bill associated with that. Balance billing generally comes out of the fact that the insurance companies like to play the game, claim you're in network. We have no contracts with any health insurance provider to be in network because of that, because then it says, yeah, we're happy to take $400 for this run that we're billing $2,500 for. So you get $400 from the insurance, $1,000 from the patient, and it's losses all over the place. And there's organizations in some circumstances where then the rest of that bill goes to the patient. Now, that's where I kind of don't understand the whole balance billing thing, right? Is that if I signed that contract with Anthem or Harvard Pilgrim or whatever, and then I try to go after that other $1,200 or whatever that delta was, yeah, that's slimy and should not happen. There's kind of, right, it's three parties involved that somebody needs to figure out where the rest of this revenue is going to come in from. That's my opinion on it. I know it's not widely shared by the legislature, but the bill was X and we should be collecting X. So my hope, I don't see it happening. My hope is that my hope would be that the state rate number goes away. I don't see it happening. Get the rest of the stuff in place and balance billing, that's all good. But dictating state rates when EMS in particular in the state of New Hampshire is super fragile, and fire-based EMS then becomes way more dependent on taxpayer contributions, it doesn't make sense for us. But you know, hopefully, worst case scenario, wish they pass the Senate bill version and we end up at 325 and we have a good marker and it's not as bad of a situation as we could be in. You know, my other fear would be that both bills pass and then they go into consensus and they say 275, right? Somewhere in the middle.
Blended somewhere.
Yeah, right, because now it's an easy enough math equation. Maybe we're closer to $100,000 in lost revenue. The breakdowns are there that, you know, that's not a perfect science, certainly when you look at the contract towns, because their runs fluctuate so much. But that's roughly what it would look like. Now, the benefit is in a way, you know, if we're still going to capture that $18,000 or $12,000 from Alexandria, Danbury, and the other $8,000 or $5,000 from Hill on the back of their taxpayers, but that's how the contracts are going to work, and that's where we'll still capture that. So it works then maybe more to $70,000 or $46,000 that we're losing. Either way, still not a negligible number.
We have some gain though, since right now you're only doing 80%. You know, I mean, you'd be closer to 100%
No, sorry, the 80% was previously, when we get our requisition and, you
Yeah,
know.
we'd have about 80% collection on it.
No, we were significantly higher than that
Oh,
in
okay.
general. Most of that is because we have a high Medicare, Medicaid payer mix, right? That dictates a rate, they're gonna pay that, and that's all you're getting, and that's all you can evaluate it against.
Oh, okay.
So the insurance paid patients, right? So the 1 in 10, let's say, patients
Right.
that get that $1,500 check directly, previously to 5 or 6 or so years ago, we would collect about 20% of that.
Oh.
Now we're about 80% of it. And I
Okay,
think
okay.
that's really kind of where we'll end up being, because like I said, I know I throw just about every Anthem explanation of benefits in the trash, and I would look at it and think that that's all it was,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they paid my ambulance bill, cool. And then it's a check,
Yeah. Done the same.
so.
Is the Chiefs Association, anybody lobbying or going down to testify?
Yeah, constantly. Since 407, and even the year before that, there was a study done by our, whatever, Bill. Scott Hunter, who just retired in Bedford, and Mike Setar out of Tilton have been kind of the faces of the Chiefs Association on this, along with the lobbyists that the Chiefs Association has. My guess is after next week, when I move up into a vice president's position, it'll probably be on my list as well. So, it luckily hasn't been assigned yet. It's been assigned to the House Commerce Committee, and hopefully that'll line up with maybe in a couple weeks they'll start hearings on it, and then I'll be deeply involved in it, or more so than I am. Yeah.
Always fun taking a trip to Concord.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like
I say sarcastically.
fall over that stupid little rail.
Sorry.
Chief, first
Yeah.
of all, thank you for doing the detail by town, because that was sort of like, in listening to you, and when I first read through it, that was the piece that I was like, okay, how do we break that up? 'Cause we obviously have a stated goal of providing regional ambulance services,
Mhm.
right? I was kind of curious, on the current rates, how come we didn't break out, is everything bumped into just the top number and it isn't really broken out?
Yes. I don't know what you're asking, but I
Oh,
think
well,
I do
what
know
I'm
what
asking
you're
is like, you take a look at, well, it's because your total is dollar loss. I was just curious as to what the totals are per town. So then it would be your intention for the contract towns, if either one of these pass, or some version of them pass, they're gonna get a hit on their tax rate to continue to provide that service
Yeah.
regardless of what happens.
So the reason I did it this way is, and obviously I've probably said it a couple times in this, right? It's an estimate, and we can
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at the
yeah. I
trends
get
and
it,
so on and
yeah.
so forth. So I can look at, out of this $535,000 from 2024, which even that's not a perfect number, because I did
Yeah.
this late in 2024 and it came in a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit different. I can look at it and say, okay, based on what portion of that, and I could have certainly put that in there for 2024 because it's easier,
Yeah,
is say that means it's a $17,000 to $12,000 difference. The biggest reason I didn't put it there is because what is generally seen more often than not as far as collections from towns is the EMS contracts, and the EMS contracts evaluate August 1st to July 31st. And so then all of a sudden you've got a couple of different pieces of paper that are out there that say, well, in 2024 it says you collected $135,000 from Alexandria, but you only credited them in that contract for 120.
Mhm.
That's pretty rough, right? So it's just a matter of not confusing different data sets,
Okay.
honestly.
all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely covering it, because for me, the first concern is anything that we're contracting for, we're making sure that we're recovering whatever those changes are, if that
Yeah,
happens.
which is largely the way the contracts are built that way, right? Is to not say, hey, here's the price with the hope of
Yeah.
returning this much revenue. It's, here's the price, and based on, we return this much revenue, so here's your credit. Now your credit's gonna be roughly $15,000
Bills
less.
less. Right, okay.
So that's it, that's just an update, there's certainly more to follow, and I would say kind of the way some of that legislation and some of the other legislation has moved this year, it will probably be pretty quick to make some decisions before it goes into, that's not consensus, isn't it? There's a term for that, committee, it's when it goes into committee, yeah, or something.
Reconciliation.
Yeah.
That's probably right, yeah.
What's the next one?
The,
Federal surplus.
well, the other thing in 4C is just an FYI that we don't, when I talked to Ben doesn't think that it's gonna benefit Bristol. It's really early in the conversation, but Grafton County is, going to be conducting, they've had contracted with Municipal Resources Incorporated to study EMS services in Grafton County. So we don't know anything more than that at this point. We don't think it's going to impact anything, but we just thought we'd let you know, so,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Next one on the list, federal surplus equipment program request.
So, the federal surplus equipment is managed through the Department of, it's not the Department of Forest and Lands anymore, but whatever, DNCR. So they have a person on staff in Forest and Lands that's constantly monitoring the federal surplus equipment out there, and to see, you know, if towns have put in requests and say, hey, we have a need for this piece of equipment. So the best example is we have a forestry trailer, right? The old military style wagon from the 50s. That is in our station, has been in our station for probably almost 20 years now, and we do not own it. The state of New Hampshire owns it under the federal surplus program. So when we decide that we no longer have a use for it, it gets returned back to them down to Bear Brook or whatever it is down there in Pembroke.
And they send it to the White Farm.
And then they either send it to the White Farm or put it back in the system, and yeah, whatever. So this has been a fairly valuable way for departments to look for pieces of equipment that, you know, are in their kind of lower use category, right? It's not always the greatest to say, oh, we need a brand new, or we need a frontline engine, let's get a frontline engine, because you're typically getting something used, it's got some wear and tear on it. But if you said, hey, you know what, we have a need for this backup engine, and we can also commit it to forestry incidents when it's needed for it, and they go out and find you a nice little engine that fits. So part of Engine 2's replacement has been the long-standing, what are we gonna do with the Rescue? The Rescue is currently, it's a 1993 F-350 chassis with like a 1980s reused box from Loudon that we bought a number of years ago and put on there to replace the old bread delivery box. And it's a good truck for when we need it. It's got 18,000 miles on it. But it does sit a lot. And currently it's sitting because we can't get it to move forward. So,
So backwards for a while.
basically in-house and as a function of the truck committee, it had been kind of determined, and we've had this discussion with CIP, like, for us, for how much we use that Rescue, it's a valuable piece of equipment. But to go out and spend $350,000 on a mini pumper style light duty Rescue, it just doesn't make sense for the town of Bristol. Whereas going out and watching the market, particularly right the used market, if you can get that truck that's gonna work, probably don't have 18,000 miles on it, but still in decent shape for 30 to 50 grand with a $15,000 upfit, that may be a really nice place to end up at. This is an even better place to end up at because it's completely free. And while we don't own it, we have it until we don't need it anymore. So this can span the spectrum. Within central New Hampshire, recently there's a town that got a rescue truck. Back up. There's a town that got a mini pumper. It's a great mini pumper, it's in great shape, low mileage, it's barely used, whatever, and they have it in service, and that's fantastic. I think it's Loudon, one of the towns in central New Hampshire picked up a Quint, which is basically what our ladder truck is, also has a pump and water on it. and it's less than 75 feet or less of a stick. So they picked up a Quint, right? A truck that on the used market is X hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace is $1.5 million. Now they have at least a stopgap piece of equipment to build up their reserves till they buy their new piece of fire apparatus. So we would specifically be looking in that rescue category. There is a town that picked up a rescue that, in all likelihood, if you bought it on the used market, would be a $60,000, let's call it, dollar rescue. That truck needed a motor, and they opted to say, this is a good truck, it will fit our needs, and we'll spend the $10,000 to put a new motor in it. My goal, like I've talked to Dolph about, is I don't want to be in that position. I want to find a truck that is working and is going to meet our needs. Certainly in that 5 to 10 year, but in all likelihood in another 20 years. And we don't have to, we're going to have to put money into it. We'll have to install radios in it. We'll likely have to put our lighting package on it, a minimal lettering job. It's not anything expensive, but it's certainly in that 10 to 15, probably, hopefully, range. Potentially if we pick up something. But it's also something that outside of a radio install, if we had to wait another year to get that done or whatever, fund it somehow, the truck could be in service, right, as a red and white, throw a Bristol town seal on it and call it good for now. So why I'm here today is just it requires the select board signature or a signature from the select board that says you're at least good with us, and by us I mean that program manager at Dancer looking for said piece of equipment. It doesn't tie us into any piece of equipment. It is a fast-moving process that if they identify something on a Friday, over the course of that next week till next Friday's look, you need to make an evaluation and a decision. The somewhat benefit is that if we pull the trigger in the interim and get it moving, wherever it is, from wherever it is to here, and we ultimately decide, I guess, not to keep it, right, we can just send it back. So yeah, that's where we're at. Having that solution is a big, okay, now the truck committee can look at engine 2's replacement in this manner, not as a rescue pumper that's going to be $1.3 million or have to hold certain pieces of equipment. It can be a frontline attack truck. So that's all set. And then, like I said, currently we're trying to figure out why the thing won't move forward. And there's also some other the truck's 30 whatever years old, and there's probably needs some shackles, and it needs a little bit of this and it needs a little bit of that. And before we start, maybe it's only a few $1,000s, but a few $1,000s into a truck that the plan says we need to get rid of, just doesn't make sense. So it's a great truck and chassis, and I'm sure some of that fix is very simple for somebody. Like I think when we get rid of that rescue, I think we'll realize a decent little return on it. But it's also a dog, right? It'd just be great to haul hay from one field to the next, or construction equipment from one job to the other, and it doesn't matter that it took you 40 minutes to make a 30-minute trip, I've taken it to plenty of task force responses. We are always the ones that hold up the convoy, but it's got a lot of great equipment and we go and do a really good job, so that's fine, but it's a dog.
So I guess my only question would be, well, a couple layers. How much money do we have in the CIP for this, and wouldn't we be using those capital funds out of the fire department fund to fund this if they found it? Because as you said, step one is make sure the select board's okay with the process, and then they may have to move quickly.
Yeah, that is one option.
Yeah, so the benefit, again, the acquisition of the truck largely, outside of a potential, it's a really long ways away and we can't drive it back. There's potential shipping costs, which again, I've told the deputy we're going to try to avoid that. I'll take a road trip to Tennessee and drive a truck back. I'm all for it. So that would be the cost. The cost of the upfit, it would be then a conversation of, maybe it's 2 months from now, Christina updates you, hey, the fire chief has found this truck and they think we're gonna move on it, we're gonna acquire it, and then another month goes by and I'm in here saying upfit's 15 grand, 12 grand, whatever it is, then it's a decision of, do we wait till the end of the year and see if there's surplus, do we authorize it out of the capital reserve account, do we put it on a warrant article next year,
Well, I
right?
mean,
So-
I guess the only reason I was focused on the capital reserve account is that, to the point that you're making, is that's where we have a process where we expect to replace these things sort of in this order.
Yeah, as far as the CIP for this truck, it's sort of on constant deferred.
Different.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
A replacement cost is not in
To
in
me,
the
that-
CIP at this point, because we've just never deemed it to be, you know, every year, we've just never deemed it to.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
but I mean,
largely
we need to
true
replace
replacement of
for-
the finances don't make sense. It doesn't
Right,
make sense
yeah.
to invest.
Nothing ever made sense
X
to
hundreds
put
of
it on
thousands.
the list to replace, so.
As far as the capital reserve account, which, at the end of 2024, I haven't updated the stuff that we put in, it was 456,000.
Okay. And we can go over that then, but I don't know, for me, it's like, that's the account that we have stuff for that, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's where it comes out of, right?
Right.
Like, right, and if we can get it, the deal that
We
we
can
were just
get-
talking about, then awesome, like that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that much better for us, right? Anyways,
So we want to make a motion to authorize?
I printed.
Hmm?
Oh, you want, oh, well, here, do you want to take the one you signed already instead?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have just, I left the top, what we're requesting blank, because
Yeah.
it's a federal program, and it's, right, a rescue's probably a type 5 general ABC, right? The federal government has a weird category, so
Right.
I'll let Chris work with the program manager to figure out what we're looking for. Because if
Okay.
you say rescue here, it's one thing, and rescue in Ohio, it's an ambulance. I don't need another ambulance.
I will make a motion to authorize the request for federal equipment through the state of New Hampshire and the Bristol Fire Department.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 4-0.
There's only one line for.
There's only one line, so.
so studious in how you signed on.
No, that was printing. Had to think,
Yeah, I do too.
had to think.
We did our line of credit a couple of weeks ago, and by the end of it, my signature had no resemblance to where it started.
All right.
The last thing is in 4E.
SCBA masks and bottles?
So we're doing purchase orders through the system. I don't have the purchase order number through the system, unfortunately. But if you, depending on what you decide to do, you can certainly approve it to go forward, but
So we're looking at.
it's 04E.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember on the CIP
Christine. This is
for
good.
when we
Carol.
were figuring on replacing them this
That's
year,
fine.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had,
Sorry, John. Sorry. He was asking me a question at the same time, sorry.
Okay.
I gotta look at what's still in there, I'll do that ahead of this year's update, but, so, because previously, the plan would have been, when we got the grant in 2008 or 9, and then purchased the equipment in 2010, to replace largely almost all of the department's bottles, our SCBA packs, we would have traditionally come back in 15 years and said, we need to update, because it's X amount of NFPA revisions ahead, and new equipment, and so on and so forth. We're fairly happy with the SCB equipment as it is, even though it may be some NFPA revisions behind. And the trade for the old Jeep Forestry for the packs and bottles got us into a position where now they largely match. There was a few little bells and whistles on those packs, but largely match. So it puts us into a position where we don't have to buy $10,000 packs, 30 odd of them this year or next year or whatever. So the bottle life is 15 years. You have them hydro tested every 5 years, and at 15 years they're out of service. The packs we have tested every year and generally can stay in service until they break or are truly deemed unsafe to use. So we'll keep the packs in service. These are the 32-ish, something like that, bottles that, maybe it's more than that we got under the grant, and then there's a number of bottles that go with those. When we got those bottles with those packs for the trade, we knew that they were going to be out of service this year as well. But this just updates the rest of them. There'll still be a few miscellaneous from an old set of packs, like 10 air bottles or something that in 5 or 8 years we'll have to replace. But this gets all those replaced, all the ones that go out of service like August or September of this year, and then 15 masks. So again, that number's trimmed back because there was a lot of really new masks in that equipment, all from that trade. So this just, it's kind of just fits in everybody else that we weren't able to replace masks, including myself. Mine doesn't really fit the way it used to. I think it's just because it's old. It has nothing to do with my face and stuff.
Face has changed that much.
So it's like anything plastic and rubber, right? It starts to take a shape after a while, and then if that shape is somewhat different, it's not going to work as well
right
as it
here,
used to. So I guess just for the two maybe that weren't, I had brought it forward as a warrant article, and the decision was made, let's not put it on the warrant, let's fund it through the capital reserve account. And so now we got to make that purchase before we start hitting even more pricing increases. There was a little bit of an increase. This is still less than what I asked for. I'd put in a pretty healthy, make sure we had the right number for the warrant article. So, $54,312.
The warrant article was 65,000.
Yeah.
So he definitely got a different number on what he's proposing for you,
So, and then I think I covered it, but for anybody listening, the 2 quotes thing is Scott has approved vendors for an area, and those are the 2 vendors. So we really can't buy Scott equipment from anywhere else.
You have a purchase order?
No, because we do go through the system now, and so I haven't quite learned how to do that yet.
Okay.
So we can certainly get one. It would probably be, what's the one we just did? Was the AV equipment? I know. Let me just check.
Typically, our large, purchases like this, we have a purchase order that we approve.
Yeah.
I get yelled at last time I turned in a paper purchase order, so I didn't this time.
We have this fancy new system that we can't use.
Well, and I think I know how to do it, but,
I'm just
but
teasing.
normally I'm able to have that.
Anybody can make a mistake, it takes a computer to screw everything up. Have we approved any purchase order for the amount and
Okay, I'm gonna make a
Because
motion.
I can't
Yeah.
find it,
That's
sorry.
fine. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the purchase order and referencing the sales quote from IPS Industrial Protection Services LLC for 48 cylinders and 15 masks in the amount of, hold on. Damn mouse guy.
you gotta get on the
In
second.
the amount of $54,312. Purchase order number to be filled in by the town administrator.
And stamped
And
signatures.
And what?
And approve the
And
stamp.
approve the use of the stamps for the signatures.
Nice second.
All right, motion by Sean, second by John. Any discussion?
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 4-0-0.
Thank you much.
So what happens?
Should have mentioned that
The warrant was 65,
what's that?
right? The warrant
No,
was-
we didn't, sorry, we didn't do the warrant.
We didn't do this as a warrant article.
So we changed the, we were supposed to put it in as a
Thanks,
warrant
Pat.
article, but the
Yeah, thank you.
input that we received from the town's attorney was if it's voted no, then you can't replace them, and now we're putting them in a position.
Yeah, because they
So-
have to be replaced.
So we pulled it off the warrant and told them.
Oh, that's right, in the beginning, sorry,
You're the
Graham,
purchase.
we're going
Yeah.
out of the CIP, we're going out of CIP, sorry,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, this is
When you-
scheduled.
When you said warrant earlier, I was like, okay, where's the
Yeah.
11 grand?
Yeah, that was the first, it's like, no.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's right.
So the money will come out of the fire equipment.
Good,
Capital Reserve Fund. And it's,
I just
it's-
closed my,
that's
It's
actually
on-
what it's supposed to be.
it's on the CIP plan.
Yeah,
excuse me. Sorry, I just closed my screen out.
especially since, you know, that's our mechanism for saving for these
Yeah.
kinds of purchases, because we have to do regular replacements.
Exactly, and the amount we put in every year is based off of a cash flow,
Correct.
which takes into account this,
Yeah, fair enough.
which has taken into account this purchase.
Yeah, we did bump up fire to 100, right?
think
that
so.
was- I think that's what it
Yeah.
was. I just didn't have it in the number, so it's the number I gave you plus 100.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
All right. TA report?
I broke them up by folders for you. The first one is the TA report discussion items. Those are in that folder, those are the items. And then 05A at the bottom is the TA report. Under that, I have the last two batches of wage scale adjustments. They're the final PAFs to adjust the approved step and COLA changes. There's a motion also in your packets, there are only two batches here. Town clerk tax collector's office, which we won't have to,
No, we still have to do
well,
that.
we still have to do
still
one,
have to
but
do-
we don't, we should just do them both.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's the town clerk tax collector's office and the highway department. So there is a motion in that same folder, if you're comfortable. These are should be the last two batches. The library is the third, but you don't
But they
sign
do.
up on those. The trustees have, and we're already working on those, so.
So,
You want a motion?
Yeah, where are they again? I saw them
Yeah,
earlier.
it's written out there.
Okay, thank you.
Right here on this piece of paper.
I will make a motion to approve PAFs 25024, batch 25024 for the town clerk, tax collector office, and PAFs batch 25021 for the highway department, which includes step and COLA increases, as approved on the 2025 wage scale with the new rates effective 4/6/25.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Sean, second by Scott. Discussion?
so it's sort of generically the same question for me, for the folks that we're giving the step increases to now. How do we see sort of how they're faring across?
That was all
There's-
done by the department studies over the last 2 years.
No, okay, but nonetheless, I guess I'm still trying to figure out the same thing, because I think historically, for as long as I've been coming into the town offices, I generally hear how we're behind the times. So I guess every time I get one of these, my question will always be the same: how are we doing generically with this group of folks? Are we on target? Because basically, we're not gonna touch this again for them until next year. Right? And let's just say for right now, they're in the target, they're in the median, and they're in good standing as far as like the departments go themselves. I guess I'd like to know that.
Yeah, so I would say it's gonna be the responsibility of the department heads to come to us when they're building their budget
That's what I was just gonna
to say, okay, where do we currently stand?
say. Right.
Okay?
This is a process that started a while ago. Yeah.
I'm good, I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying,
Yeah, but I
So,
think that's where we can address it. And
Or when I was waiting for you to start.
Nope, that's pretty much it.
I was just
I
gonna
tend
say,
to tail off.
part of the process when we do budget is the board has to make a decision about, okay, what our current wage scale is, do we support step increases? And
Yep.
step increases is just one to the next step, and that's 3%. The next step is, where are we? Should we be adjusting the whole wage scale because we aren't in the right place? So, or should we be moving people on, should we be moving job descriptions? We didn't do that this last year, but should we be looking at that and moving them on the wage scale before we adopt the wage scale, again, the new one each
Okay.
year? So, where they've only approved a 1% adjustment on the wage scale, we
Yeah.
did that, and then people moved as a step, and that's what these are.
Okay.
But during budget year, we should provide feedback to department heads that you want to see a little bit more about comparison of where they're at in other towns, so.
Yeah, other towns, and then obviously whatever we think the scale needs to be.
Right.
So, that's good. Okay.
Good.
Good deal, thank you.
No problem.
And I think that's a good point. I think not so much we have to stop asking how much can we afford, but the other part of that question is how much can we not afford to lose?
At the end of the day, when you lose an employee, it's 6 months minimum to
Right.
get somebody to where you need them to be. Now, listen, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that we're loaded with tax money either, right? Like, I think we're all charged with trying to figure out that
Yeah.
balance of the two, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we get to talking about replacements of other folks, I'm gonna probably come up with similar questions, right?
Yeah.
But it's along the same line, like, how do we make sure that the folks that work for the town, I mean, and that's, you know, it's in Christina's next thing around employee appreciation, right? Like, we have a lot of folks that are very dedicated to Bristol. So, sort of first step for me is making sure that we're recognizing that sort of in return, and then the second step is, okay, at the same time, how are we being responsible with the tax money that we have for the folks that are paying it, right? Like,
Right. That's the constant
Yep.
balance, yeah.
There you go.
So
Okay.
I-
All right, motion second, that's my, I'm good.
You
Thank
need to finish
So-
your, well, you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just gonna go close discussion. about it.
Yeah, I was waiting until people were done discussing.
We've been tailing off.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes 400.
April employee appreciation. Again, Bristol is thankful for the employees who celebrate an April anniversary date for joining our Bristol team. We are thankful for their years of continued service in the police department. We have Christopher Bean, Chief Bean, 18 years. Michael Greer, 1 year. In the fire department, we have Jeff Ford, 21 years. Kevin McCaffrey, 11 years, and Cynthia Rogers, 19. In the water sewer department, we have Jesse Lamus, he is 26 years, and Carrie Nyberg is 3 years. In the transfer station, we have Arthur Tangway, who's 4 years, and then tax collector's office, Remus Simpson is 30 years. So. Reval information, I don't know. I wanted to touch base because I know this was a concern brought up at the select board, and it's going to be brought up consistently by select board member Lemieux. He's not even listening.
I'm listening,
So,
smiling on the inside.
so this, I know, this tab on your homepage up on the screen is used to say COVID-19. Doesn't need, it had old information on it, we didn't feel that it needed to be there.
Perfect.
So what and Joanne actually, we were talking about where can we put this? Because it's gonna get buried in the news items, or you have to sticky it, it's called, to the top of the screen. So Joanne worked with Cade and this is the start, it's gonna be made to look a little
Yeah.
better, but it says 2025's reval, and then these are the 2 documents so far that we've talked about. There will be more things going in. Kate's going to be putting stuff into the Buzz as well, and we've been adding them to Facebook.
I saw the timeline, I was looking
Yeah.
at the timeline.
So,
Okay, so can we record a video? Sean, we talked a little bit about this.
Yep.
I would love to see us, you know, either, Joanne sent out some of that information, maybe, Joanne goes front and center, we figure out how to do it together, I don't know, like, I would love to see us do some explanations, because I feel like be a good spot to be able to highlight some of that stuff.
I think if you're gonna, my opinion only, is if you're gonna record a video, we should have some question and answers for her. So if there's some, we could either do the FAQs, or you could come up with other questions that you might
Whatever you
see.
I just think it's more, I think it's more
That was at the
consistent.
top then.
No, yes, on all.
So yeah, yes, I will mention that to Joanne as one of the things that you'd like to see done, but I do think it would be good,
Okay.
so. And we can add, that could probably be the highlight when you go onto the page, the
Yeah.
video's at the top with everything below,
Yeah.
so. One of the thoughts too, now that we've been talking about this tab, after the reval year, we pin, when you, go to the news items, so if you went to news items, we pin it to the top of the page normally, and when I unpin it, it drops way back down.
Yeah,
So, your 25, every election, you could put, the tab could then become in the future,
The next
for each
one.
year, it's not a reval, it could be elections and town meeting
Yep.
information. And that would be an easier place to have all your information, so,
Christina,
yes.
can I just add to that?
Yes.
That tab redirects to a page that you create. So when you change the tab, our 2025 reval page will still exist and we can link it another way.
Oh, to
We
the
can just
assessing,
have that tab redirects to the next page we want to sit there, so
that's good to
it's
know,
not like we're overriding it whenever we change it.
that's neat, so that's good to know, so. So just, we want to make sure you knew that, I'm not gonna touch
Twenty-three
base
signatures.
on,
Yeah, I gotta get them over here. Gotta give them back to you to sign the rest of them.
before I went to.
the other there's another folder just below that called 05C, and that's info only. I sent those out to you. If there's anything you want to touch base on, let me know. Other than that, the next one, there are some additional items. It's 05B TA report, additional items, and the folder is the same. If you can open that TA report for additional items and read the first one. I won't apply to John because he wasn't here, but I believe Sean was here for part of that conversation. I don't know if Don was. This, right now, we have to reach out to the former police chief, but I want to make sure the recollection, it's not in the minutes anywhere. And both Chris Bean and I remember it, and also I'll have you read that paragraph and just make sure. It's at the very bottom of your list, 05B, right there. Yeah, and read that first paragraph.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we discussed that.
And give, not sell, correct? Because we remember give.
That's taxing my memory,
I know, it's not in the minutes anywhere.
but
Are we
I
on?
don't see why not.
Are you
What?
on the very bottom 05B TA report of your list? Thank you.
Oh, okay, hold on.
I'm trying to think, did she retired before I got?
I don't see why we would know.
Were you involved in appointing the chief
Yeah, we agreed,
to give, correct?
Yes.
That's what I thought. So if you read further, we have to reach out.
yeah, and he's gotta do the trick.
Gotta do the transfer.
Yeah, so it's still not done, so we just
Okay.
wanted to, we're
Yep.
gonna reach out and take care of that.
It was definitely, let him
Okay.
keep it.
Timber, there's a timber report, it's similar to the ones that were already on the consent agenda, but it missed it, so it's it was not added to the consent agenda in error. So I'm asking under the TA report, if you can certainly take a look at it, it's right here. I put a motion there, it's a tax of $274.12, it's a timber.
It's a report of cut.
A report of cut, sorry.
Yeah.
I did put a motion, but I'll let you take a look at it. There's a motion added to the same TA report.
You know, for the public safety, is this trying to put the?
No, look under timber report. That's the one we're on right now.
Oh,
Sorry.
thought you were moving on, sorry.
I can't tell you motion.
You want me to motion?
You just motioned to approve the tax warrant, timber tax warrant for that operation.
Do you need the map lot?
No, just, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the timber tax warrant
And certificate.
and certificate for Operation 24059001.
In the amount of,
Hmm?
in the amount of,
Oh, sorry, in the amount of $274.12.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by John, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm hurrying.
Pass. Passes 4-0-0.
Next is the public safety building transfer. This also did not make the consent agenda, but this will also help cash on hand. If this is in your is in the folder, additional items, you can certainly take a look at it. What this is the bills that we pay the bills out of the general fund, and then when we request the money back from the public safety building fund. They're two different accounts.
Right.
So this is the amount that the public safety building fund owes
The
the general fund. This will get us caught up to what's been spent as of today's date. I think there's a small bill coming in still. I can't say it out loud because
Yeah.
he'll cringe over there. AV equipment. So there's just, we've already paid for the majority of that. We just have a small percent bill coming out for labor. But this is everything that's in there. When we checked last at the end of February, there was 350,000 here.
Okay.
We still have to resolve the one outstanding issue, but once we've done this, then we can focus on the outstanding issue, and we should be able to get a better number for the public safety building after that. And there's a motion on that report for you if you want to use it, so.
Make a motion to approve the transfer of funds between funds treasurer for
Here.
the amount.
There.
Make a motion to approve the transfer of funds to the town's general fund in the amount of $333,501.21 from the town's public safety building fund.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Scott, second by Sean. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Pass 4-0-0.
Just a heads up, there is another bill that could affect the town as well. House Bill 297 we're still learning more about it. Ben and I and Heather watched it's a virtual town hall with Health Trust today. Health Trust is our insurance carrier, and the effect of the bill on it's affecting pools, risk pools. We don't know the impact for health completely for Health Trust, but if it goes through, there's talk that we would have to set up reserve accounts on the town side, and that depending on what happens with the bill, it's past one side, it's on the other side right now, but depends on what happens with the bill, the towns would have to set up reserve accounts. How that's calculated is not quite clear, but it would be anywhere between 1% and 4% has to be put into the account annually. If the contingency drops below 4% with Health Trust, then the towns will have to replenish it. Not based on our uses, but based on all the towns that are in it, the shared costs. So it could get expensive, and there's no way to know exactly what it would be. We are meeting with Interlocal Trust in 2 weeks, which is another insurance company, to talk to them. They are also a pool. How this affects them, we don't know yet, and we don't, so we're trying to get all our ducks in the row, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Primex is also a risk pool. So we don't know how this whole bill will affect everybody yet. We're just starting to learn more about it. So just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay.
I can certainly share the bill with you, but.
Yeah, send that out,
Yeah,
boy. Yeah, I just don't even like the sound of that on
No, when the thing we went to today, I was like, how do we ever budget for that?
the, yeah.
Because it talks about replenishment costs and assessment, and to get out of the pool, you still have to pay one of those fees to get out.
Yeah.
So if and it could be 20% one year, and an increase in your cost could be 20%, but you still have to pay the assessment fee to get out.
Yeah.
So, highway department, they want to go to 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday, starting April 14th. It was before your next select board meeting, so I just wanted to touch base with the board if you had any concerns with that. They normally start right around Memorial Day, Monday through Thursday.
Every year they do it.
And
Every
then,
year they do it?
yeah, and then they come back closer to October now. I think they come back to 5 days a week, so.
Yeah, they do 4 tens in the summer. Sort of a,
So do they not have any coverage on Fridays, or do they,
No.
or do they stagger, like somebody does Tuesday to Friday and somebody does Monday to Thursday?
No, there's no coverage on Friday, but there is someone available.
No, there's no on-call in the summer either.
Okay.
But if we need to, we can reach out to someone.
Yeah.
if we
in an
need to.
emergency, we always.
Yeah, we would contact Victor in an emergency, and he would have somebody come out if needed, so. But,
It surprisingly has been very smooth and hasn't really been an issue that I can recall in the time we've done it.
when Mark was there, I'd asked Mark to consider having someone rotate every
Yeah.
Friday, but we never did that, and we used to have more problems, before we had a maintenance person for Kelly Park.
Yeah, Yeah.
We don't seem to, I'm gonna jinx it, so I'll say knock on wood, we don't seem to
we
have,
haven't had those
or
problems.
haven't had as many problems. We have a Kelly Park maintenance person now who's able to pick up and take care of something down there if it comes up, so.
I guess what I would see, if we start to see a problem, we may require someone to be on a Friday.
Yeah, I guess that would be, because I mean, if you think about it, one of our biggest challenges as a community is the way that we balloon in the summertime.
Yeah,
Right.
So, I mean, we have to make sure we're prepared for that, but if there hasn't been an issue, I'm not looking to go messing with it. But if we start to have an issue, then they may need to look at a schedule
yeah,
where somebody's doing Tuesday to Friday, or whatever, like.
yeah. They still get their 3-day weekend.
The highway really isn't
The only
affected.
problem is,
In the summer, they're not affected by the influx of people really.
That much,
And-
unless there's a problem.
Unless there's an issue, yeah.
Okay.
A sinkhole or something like that, but they'd have to come in if that happened at 5 o'clock too.
Yeah,
Mm.
Then the whole, the biggest idea behind it is, and it's been shown, you can, when you're doing larger projects in the summer, you get more work done in 4 tens than you would in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the longer days.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, one less setup, tear down.
I'm not looking to screw with their 4-day thing.
Oh, yeah, no.
For me, it's just about,
No, I was just filling in as to
Yeah.
why we typically do that.
The 2017 F-550, we had talked about that's one of the ones that's set to come to be replaced. The transmission is gone. However, the truck is in very, very good shape. It's the one that's supposed to be transferred next to the highway department to the transfer station to replace the one they got. So we are replacing the transmission. We did 3 quotes. We've looked at it and we can get, where is the number?
wait a minute, say that again, because I thought you were talking about the one that we sold.
No, this is a 2017 F-550, it's Victor's truck.
Okay,
The transmission went.
okay,
So it is still a good truck, and
Yeah.
the plan had been, the body's in good shape. The plan had been, because the one that we transferred to the transfer station this year was in great shape, but it was the only truck that we had.
yeah,
So the plan had been to take the 2017 and move it over when we replace this. We're not set to replace this until next year.
okay,
So that Auto Trends is able to do it, it's in, I just wanted the board to know. We did 3 quotes, we couldn't get definitive numbers without bringing the truck to the locations. So we did the verbal quotes from them, and the best one was Auto Trends. They will do a remanufactured 3-year warranty or 50,000 miles. They've seen the vehicle and the price would be $8,300, which is in the realm for myself and Victor to approve, but we
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that you knew. We wanted to keep the truck, if it was a rust bucket, we would
Right.
come to you and say
Yeah,
no.
it's not
So would that also come out of the CIP?
No, that'll come out of
Maintenance
his
fund.
maintenance line.
Maintenance fund, okay.
Yeah. Well, he's aligned in his budget for
Vehicle
vehicle
maintenance.
maintenance,
Yeah.
so it'll come out of there, so.
Okay.
So he's keeping it?
Well, he's got it because we're not slated to replace the
Replace it,
vehicle
right?
this year.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
It's next year, so, but when we replace this vehicle, it will transfer to
Right,
highway and
yeah.
we'll get rid of, I keep saying highway, transfer to transfer station and we'll get rid of the transfer station one.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Do you, while we're on highway department vehicles, where do we stand with getting that truck repaired, the windshield?
he is working on getting the vehicle out there, he has no title yet. Ram has checked on the title twice, we haven't gotten it yet. So we've submitted for a title, it's probably about 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
And so we are going to replace the windshield. We couldn't get any other quotes, Safelite won't cover it, so I'm gonna go ahead and take.
What's the issue with we don't have a title for it because it's a municipal vehicle, or?
No, the title's been misplaced
Oh.
somehow. We tried, we looked everywhere that we could,
Yeah.
and we can't find it, so I applied for a new title. It's been one thing after another with this vehicle, unfortunately. He is going to be relocating it, no, the check engine light's on.
Yeah,
So-
it needs to be run.
Yeah, that's part of it, so he is going to be relocating it, but part of it is there's no plates
Yeah.
until we can get a title, so that's why it's still there, so. I hope, we're on 4 weeks, we should have it hopefully, it's usually 4 to 6 weeks at the worst.
Just give it an estimate.
That's what I said,
Yeah.
so, that's what I said, but I can't say it out loud. Just I just wanted, we've changed the way your checks come out now, we're not being mailed. Technically, I did this time, I asked them to print them, but the stubs are in a system, which we don't print them out, employees can get in and get them. They come out, I'm gonna open yours, I can't. So it comes out in this long page, it's a stub,
Yeah.
and it would be a paper copy for those who get direct deposit. Do you want them?
I don't care to have her.
I just wanted, you get paper, so you have to have them.
Right,
Until
I'm
you
the
change to
same way.
direct deposit. But I think the rest of you are now direct deposit,
Right,
so does anybody want their stubs?
okay.
No, I think I'm still paper, by the way. I didn't do direct.
Oh, you didn't do, so you would be, you'd get one like this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Fine, whatever.
All right.
I'm hurrying.
That's Liz's problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've already gone over the,
I,
Good.
I was gonna say, you might,
hey,
you're
that went
you're-
longer than,
yeah, no, you're past the report by
no,
quite
we
a
don't
bit.
get paid.
okay, good, go ahead.
All right, select board items, Scott?
I should listen. No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right, what about the bottom of your feet?
No,
Okay. All right, Sean?
Yeah, I got a few. I was at the Conservation Commission meeting last night. After a lot of hard work, the Lake Study Committee presented their report, which they're doing some final edits on and will have to us, I think possibly at our next meeting.
Okay.
Wow, nice.
Or first meeting in May. I know he wants to come in and present it. So then the question becomes, not to go, it's a really, it was really well done. There's a lot of work behind it. There's a nice 3/4 page executive summary, right at the beginning, so I was really happy with that, and then I dug into it. I'll let you all, the gist of it is, pretty much what we expect, that while certain parameters on the lake quality have decreased over the last 10 or 20 years, it's still very acceptable, very clean levels. although not quite as much as before. And I'm just doing some highlights.
Yep.
A very high desire to start sampling in shallow waters, because all of the sample points are in deep waters, which I understand why they do that, but it doesn't give you a full picture of the entire lake. It also talks about, recommendations, which we've all seen. What it does is it links to NLRA for their recommendations on, land use suggestions, but the report doesn't say this is what we need to do. It just says these are some things that you can look at. And I did go back and I double checked those things. There wasn't really anything I found objectionable. And then, the interesting part about it that I really thought was quite interesting was it talks about all of the anecdotal evidence of failing septic systems along the lake, but no documented cases.
Oh, okay.
There is no data, although everyone will
No
tell
hard
you,
data.
but there's no data, not because it's not happening, there just isn't any data.
I'm sure there's reluctance on the people that have
Correct.
failing
So that-
systems.
So that leads me
Yes.
to my next point,
Yes.
which is what do we as a board do with this report? And, preferably not put it on a shelf and not think about it. So they'll be in and talk about that. One thing that we talked about was really a combination of public information regarding septic systems that are within, I might say earshot, but close to the lake.
Yeah.
And some sort of an effort to reach out to those folks and, which is, again, is tricky,
Yes.
How is your system? How do you feel your system is?
Yeah.
It's not, we need to know, but, we'd like to get a picture of, what
Yeah.
we're dealing with long term.
Right.
So they talked about an ad hoc committee for that. We'll have more of a discussion on it, but really good report, and I think I hope you'll all enjoy reading it.
Before you move on,
Yep.
if you're looking, by the way, they are on the Conservation Commission, their
Yes.
page.
These are all the minutes.
On the
Yeah.
bottom of the page is a place called study documents. I can make that bigger, but while
Yeah.
they were working on it, we didn't put that out. We wanted them to be able to work on it. This is everything
That
that
they
they've
reviewed.
reviewed.
Okay.
And they did, so they did review, I think there are some other things that may not have made it onto the board, but for the most part, this is everything that they reviewed, and so if anybody wanted to look at it.
Also, the perennial talk of, our conversation with other towns as well.
Well, that's exactly where I was going, because we're not the only community on the lake. If you remember.
But we're the most impacted because everything comes,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Everything comes
So,
up.
right,
Yeah.
so we had the Alexandria select board members were here,
Yep.
and I was here one night for the planning board. And, they were seemingly very open to a bunch of different discussions.
yeah, they are. Yeah.
So I guess the whole point is once we get to that, we really should, when it comes to the lake, we need to figure out how to have a better commission
Yeah.
across the communities.
Yep.
And
No,
get
I
everybody
agree.
on the same page.
Okay, that's what I had for that. Old Town Hall. It's starting to look pretty ragged.
The paint is falling off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what we have in our maintenance line, but my thought was we don't need to bite it off all at once, but maybe we do a facade a year.
So the library got their quote to do mainly their trim and sprucing up, and what else was on it? It was $25,000.
Yeah. No, it's gonna, I remember, we spent a lot of money on
On
that.
that, yeah. Yeah.
But I think it, even if we say, okay, we've got $10,000 to spend every year for the next 6 years. And
Yeah.
There's
whatever.
4 sides.
There's also
Because there's
still,
Well-
6 sides?
No, not really. Well, yeah, there is. There's the little bump out,
Yeah.
there's the little alcove there.
Okay.
well, because
It's kind of 5 sides if you want to.
There's also like some like plumbing things, there's some little things
Yeah.
inside that
Yeah.
needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
So, you know, we did a lot of work on that building, we did it all at once, and then, as usual, you say, okay, everything's great, and then you don't think about it for,
Right.
and now
And
that's
then it starts running down.
20 years ago.
Didn't we have an issue with the handicap ramp also?
There's we've broken railing, which we took off.
We talked about maybe putting a roof on that because of the way the
Yes.
snow comes down. So I think we just need to start thinking about that and,
Make a plan.
Maybe
I
come up with
reached
a plan.
out to, I did this last year, but we didn't get to it, but
Yeah.
we reached out to Lucille Keegan and Tom Keegan, because they were very involved in that hall, and wanted to do a walkthrough and make a little list of everything that
Great.
needed to be done. There's a window still that someone still has that was supposed to be.
okay, yeah.
We were supposed to return it to the old glazing.
Right, she was redoing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's still there, and then we still have, from what I remember, when this whole thing started, the repoint corner of the foundation still. So there's still, and we were replacing the hot water heater this year, we just were waiting for,
yeah.
them to be able to get in.
Okay, well,
But,
I wanted to put it on the front of our radar because every time I go up there or drive by, that's all I can see.
Who's responsible for our buildings?
We
Well,
are.
I get it, but like, from a department perspective, we don't have one department that's sort of like,
No.
No.
almost like
It's
a,
the-
almost like
Usually falls
buildings
in
and
the
grounds.
TA.
well, the buildings like fire and police are responsible for that building, library's responsible for their own building. Highway's responsible for theirs, water, sewer, and then all others fall under technically here, executive office. But we have a maintenance person who can do some general maintenance, so, and they're not full-time to us, they're
Right.
shared with the highway department,
Right.
so. We should go through though and make a list to determine what there is to do,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Christina, she knows where I'm going next, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Before the heavy work starts with the highway department this summer, I really want to have a discussion and whether it's a full board or whether you let me talk with the department, but I'm really thinking about, you know, how we spend that quote-unquote paving money.
So
Oh, yeah.
that's already booked. But it can be changed, but it is on your planning list session.
Okay, my point is, I'm more comfortable paving less miles, but actually rebuilding the road.
Yeah.
When we need a new culvert, we need
Yes.
ditch lines.
Yeah.
And we hear that, well, we can't do anything about that ditch because there's ledge. Well, we can do something about that, but it costs money, we have to get rid of the
Right.
ledge.
Right.
So I really want us to start thinking about
Yeah.
how we effectively spend that money.
Here,
I
here.
did-
Well, that's, I guess it was probably you getting back on the board, but we did talk with Victor
Yeah,
to basically take the so-called 10-year list that we had and redo it
right.
in that respect. So
Right.
we are planning on sitting.
You know,
down.
some roads
Victor
need
doing
that 10-year resurfacing, others don't.
Right.
I mean,
We're sort of caught up.
We had
That was a catch-up
yeah,
thing. I think we're caught up
Not
now.
only that, Christina and I talked about this a little bit too, like, in my neighborhood specifically, there are certain parts of the road that, according to the map, the online map, there are certain things that the town owns that we've never really maintained. Because the way the developer laid it out, they're planning for more roads coming in, just the way that they're laid out, like, there's just a bunch of things that need to
Yeah.
be cleaned up in that regard.
yeah,
Every time I talk to Mark about the ditch line, he was like, well, listen, if the water at the center of the road can really get off the road, yeah, but it's not flowing real well. If we get a heavy rain, and it wasn't last year was more moderate. The
It's-
year before, we got 2 massive rainstorms.
and it's more than just
It
getting,
overflows.
it's more than just getting the water to flow off the road. When your ditch lines are, I mean, it's a balance, right? You don't want a 3-foot deep
Yeah,
ditch line if
100%.
someone goes off the
Yeah,
road.
100%, yeah.
But the deepest that you can go, you're actually getting more than just the runoff, you're getting subsurface runoff going into those ditch lines. Because that's the path of least resistance.
Resistance, yeah,
Which
yeah.
gives you a drier road to begin with. Your ditches have to be below substantially below the grade of the road. And there's places you can't do that because of trees or ledge or whatever. But that's always been an excuse why it never happens, as opposed to,
Yes.
let's take a mile of paving and put it into these ditches if we're gonna redo a mile of road. You know, I'd rather fully do a mile than pave 3 miles.
Oh, I'm just gonna tell you what they
3 miles.
approved,
Right.
so you know, in case that you wanna change it, but Bristol Hill Road, Hill Road needs to be finished. So that quote, it was roughly $72,000. Harriet Drive, Ernest Drive, and Joe Nell Road are dirt roads, and they would be paved, and they would finish out the money that we have, to be able to finish the projects, so.
Okay.
That's the plan right now. It doesn't mean it has to stay that way, but that's the quotes that we have in place right now.
But like Jonell Road, like
I guess I would like to hear from, and like I said, we don't have to take the big board, but
No, we should have Victor in.
I would like to hear from Victor, okay, Bristol Hill, we know had some flooding and we gotta redo that, okay. Ernest and Janelle and Harriet, I remember those coming online, and I don't wanna pick on anybody up there, but again, if one didn't get done this year, and we got
There's something else,
the
right?
ditch lines correct, the
Yeah,
Hall Road ditches need to be done.
Yeah.
We paved it and then it washed away the very same year because there is no ditch line in certain places.
Well, I guess that's what I was saying, like, the last time I drove up there, I think it was Janelle Road, and, it looked like some of the ditches, because they've been in for a little
Yeah.
while, right? Like some of the ditches really need to be cleaned, so it was like, is it, and this is a Victor question, is it just, I'm gonna go in and pave what I've got there, maybe a little bit of touch-up, or was he intending to go
Yeah,
do the
that's,
ditch
but
line?
these came from Victor, so we can
Yeah.
ask him that.
Anyways, that's my point, right?
And then
He may have planned to do that.
drainage projects right now are 300 Lake Street, 300 Lake Street's the only one. And if we can get one of the others in this cost, it was Chestnut Street and 4th Street. And then we added a new project line, which was guardrail projects, because we have some substantial
that
issues.
used to be in there.
But we moved it to projects though.
Okay.
So because we found is that projects are costing a lot more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the replacement of guardrail on Crescent Street and Green Street.
What is the 300 Lake Street drainage?
I have to go back and look at my notes.
What's-
300 Lake Street.
Let's plan on getting
Yes.
Victor in.
Yeah.
So in your planning session, it's on there
Okay.
for you. It says Highway Department Roads discussion on reconstruction and future town.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will you be here for that, though?
You gotta schedule this stuff. This is your planning session.
All right,
Yeah.
That's what I have
Okay.
tonight.
Okay, so, my list starts with, oh Scott, he's over there going, what list? The all committees meeting, which I thought was pretty good. The group talked a little bit about, making sure we continue to improve communications and whatnot. I actually think there's a couple of technological solutions to help sort of everybody. What's that?
What?
It's by the old Chinese restaurant. I don't, Dow's
300.
Beyond it, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so I think there's a couple technological solutions to help them, because some of the things when we met last year at all committees, it was, people from, say, HTC, okay, they're trying to figure out how do I look at the planning board's minutes and the conservation commission's minutes and this one, that one. So there might be some things as we develop the SharePoint site, some things I think we can do there. One of the things I said to them was, it might be good at the next one, and I, it's one of the things I wanna make sure we talk about. I would like, and I threw it out there to all of them, I really want, the all committees folks, as well as ourselves, to look at the vision section of the master plan, and ultimately decide, do we agree this is what we're trying to do as a town? Or if we disagree, we work with the planning board to fix it to whatever we think it needs to be, right? And that the select board should probably come and give them a bit of a readout around some of the pieces that we have going on. We more or less committed to that, or the select board committed to that before anyways, around trying to like highlight what the priorities are. The thing that I said to them all and to Rick was, of no surprise to anybody here, I'm sure. I think the master plan is the lightning rod to do that. This is the stuff that we're trying to do as a community. And if we, again, if people disagree with that, then there's a mechanism to change it, and it's not that hard to do. So, there's that. We talked a little bit about the technology stuff that's going on in town. There's Hub 66 pieces. Just, you know, obviously they're still doing their thing. I go back to what I had said to the select board, I don't know, probably 6 months or so ago. You know, I want to try to figure out, and we can talk about this more during our planning session around how you guys want to approach it, but like, how do we start to meet with some of these folks that have business in town? And what's sort of their intention of the services that they're providing, which in Hub 66 case, pretty obvious. But then what's their intention commercially? You know, do they intend to open up any part of their business in town? How do we help figure that out for them, right? And then, so that from an all committees perspective, so takes care of that. Also in that, the planning board, they gave a bit of an update there. I mean, they're obviously, you're meeting with them obviously next Wednesday.
Yeah.
I just think there's quite a bit of stuff. They've got the land use chapter that's just about done, so they got to get that squared away. I think the select board, when I asked to have the select board send out that memo, I talked about it at the all committees meeting. It was really helpful. There was a lot of great nuggets that came out of like Jeff and others, where they were like, oh, well, think about these things, which the planning board wouldn't have really had a perspective on. So, anyways, there you go. I think there's a lot of opportunity for things around the lake, whether it's EDC or whatnot, where it's like Grafton County, there's other resources that we can try to tap into to start to figure out some of this stuff. Anyway, there you go.
Okay. That it?
That's it for now.
Oh, you said that was the beginning of yours.
Well, because some of it's planning stuff, I get, I'm sure we'll get into it when we start figuring out what the priorities are.
All right, I didn't have anything until you mentioned the water heater at the Old Town Hall. You're not replacing the water heater that's there, I hope.
We are.
No, just get rid of it, get point of use.
We did look into it, and Jeff there's some concerns about the electrical with those and how we set them up, but we can look into that too. I did talk to the department heads about it, and Jeff was the one, and I have to go look at my notes off the top of my head. Jeff had some concerns about them being put in there. We'd have to have 3, which we could.
Yeah.
And there was something about we'd have to improve the electric, because sometimes those point of service, and do not quote me right now,
Yeah.
I don't have my notes in front of me, but there was something about the point of service and the electrical, and that would need to be upgraded for those, so.
Yeah,
I think for the,
let me get involved with that because they're overcomplicating it.
yeah, I think so.
Plus, right now, the front bathrooms don't have hot water.
Right.
And having one monster tank that is so far away from the other two
Yeah.
places that it's used.
It's in the
It's just-
basement.
It's just dumb.
Yeah.
And it's that much more you have to drain.
And it's not in use,
Right.
the amount of time it's actually in use.
So
Yeah,
it's on the maintenance board upstairs to look at point of service,
Okay.
except I put POS and they said that doesn't stand for point of service. So,
point of use, POU, it's point of use.
Well, point of sale,
Yeah.
all good.
Get me involved, because that's what I did in the
yeah,
pub.
so
I did that in the pub, and it's not that,
that would be perfect, actually.
you can get 110 units
Do
for
you,
the capacity that we need there.
You can also
Yeah.
get gas.
would you
here.
mind giving me, looking
We
at
don't
some
have gas.
quotes
There's no gas on.
and some ideas, so I can, if you wouldn't mind getting me those ideas?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Looking at some
ideas.
ideas, yes,
Yeah.
point of use.
I guess we also need to announce 2 of the hirings.
Oh, yep,
And,
maybe not yet.
We're gonna wait.
no, no, wait a minute.
Cheese and crow, just not. They're not very much. We did hire, we've accepted, We've issued conditional offers that have been accepted and the select board approved this evening the hiring of 2 new beach attendants, Deirdre Conway and Susan Nee Dool, and I apologize if I said the name wrong. And they will be joining us this summer at the beaches.
Right.
I think those are the only new hires, yes.
All right. Public comments. Since we have one public. All right.
Bring popcorn, come on down.
Yeah, if the board has nothing else,
We're not adjourning.
why does it say adjourn?
We have a
Adjourn
work,
closing session.
adjourn public session, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
10 minutes?
Yep. Take a break for
Yeah.
10 minutes and then do